Welcome back, guys, to Sharpen Your Sword podcast. Like always, thank you so much for all the support. Thanks for the sharing. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the likes. That's what helps us out, guys. We're doing this for you guys, all right? Today on episode 45, we have a good friend of mine, EZ, okay? I'm going to introduce him to you guys here in a minute. And I have the number one co-host in the world, Giovanni Jimenez.
Hey.
¿Qué pasó, Gio?
It's all good.
So today, guys, on episode 45, I have a good friend, EZ, and I've talked about this on a podcast before, and it's about how you meet people, okay? How you meet people, how you link up with people, how you connect with people. And I personally believe everybody that comes into your life is for a reason, okay? You meet people for a reason, whether it's a personal benefit, a spiritual benefit, or business benefit. Doesn't matter what it is. It happens for a reason, okay? And thankfully, thank God, through my Jiu-Jitsu Academy, I've met a lot of people, okay? And EZ is one of those people, okay? And it went from just who this guy walks into my gym to working very close with each other, okay? You guys probably have seen the Sharpen Your Sword website. You've probably seen the Sharpen Your Sword brand film and a lot of the pictures and stuff like that. The brand film and the pictures have been created by this man, okay? So you're finally going to see the man behind the scenes, okay? And this is EZ with EZAmedia. He made the reel and took a lot of the pictures for Sharpen Your Sword. So EZ, welcome to the show.
Nice, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm happy to be here. I've actually been listening to some episodes since I've been here. I like your podcast, man. I'm happy to be part of this.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate that you took time to get on.
Appreciate you guys, yeah. Thank you.
It's a big deal. So let's go ahead and jump into it, okay? Finally, after it's been probably 2-3 months I've been trying to get you on here now.
Yeah, I think so.
So he's become a very busy man, all right? So we're low on the totem pole right now. So he's become a very busy man with his business endeavors and his website and his media business. And now we have the pleasure of having him on here. And EZ, I want you to talk about how we met, right? I already mentioned that you walked into my academy and that's how it went down. But I want you to go into detail how that happened.
So it's crazy because it's almost like if I really want to take it far back enough, it's almost like a 14-year backstory to that moment. But I'll keep it kind of brief. So I've been living in Dubai for 14 years. I grew up in Virginia and moved there when I was 18. And, when you're 18, you don't really know, just kind of going with the flow. And I went to college there, started working, doing video production, and it was never enough to just be on like a set. I didn't like just being they're called the PA, the production assistant, which is typically how you start in any production. You want to be any part of a film production gig, you start as a PA and then work your way up based on what you like. And so I had at some point decided I want to be a film director. Like I don't want to just be the guy helping. And it's funny because there was one moment I was working on a Nestle ad and I was the PA. So I had to be the guy who's helping out with the art director, whoever. And at one point I had to run to the bathroom. You got to take the Nestle, like a generic milk, put it in the Nestle bottle so that when they put it on camera, it's the Nestle milk. And I was in the bathroom funneling milk from one bottle to another. And I looked at myself and I was like, yeah, if I'm going to be a film director, I got to go direct some films. It's not going to just happen, me pouring milk into another bottle. And that was a pivotal moment for me where I decided I need to pursue this path. And after that point, I got my own camera, I started shooting stuff. Fast forward, I eventually started working with a private client, and that was basically the last 7 years of my life up until this point was with that private client. So it was a lot of corporate stuff and whatever. I reached a certain point where I realized I was like, I think it's time to go back to the US. I reached a point in my life with my work, my profession and what I do. And I'm like, I need to take it to the next level because what I know I want to do is not found in this particular path. And that at that time it was, career wise on paper, everything's great. Like nothing, this isn't everything was horrible and miserable. I had to find a way. I mean, internally, of course, there's going to be some internal misery, you know, but I'm gracious enough to at least be very clear when I say, you know, I was comfortable and I was able to take care of my family, which is the most important thing. But there was a void, like there was this void inside of me that was like, yeah, no, like this, something's not right. And if I keep going down this way, that void is going to just be infinite. It's not going to just be a little like discomfort, but then whatever, I can just sort of gloss over it and go out and see some people and hang out and just forget about it. No, this was like, it felt existential. So around 2021, 2022, I started really seriously considering moving back to the US. And so for me, you know, it's kind of a pro and a con. I didn't really have any family in the US. I don't have an extended family, at least. And it just so happened that my parents were in the US at that time. And so, you know, there was kind of maybe an opportunity. So I started thinking about it, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I think it's time, you know, when it comes to career, there's no place like the US when it comes to media, film. I mean, this is kind of where everything started. You know, you see, we see across the world there's a global effect, but this is where everything started, really. And so in this consideration, I knew that if I'm going to come to the US, I would stop over at my parents, and then I'm going to go off to the next place, which for me, I had a clean slate. And I was like, you know what? If I got to pick one place in the US and that I can pick anywhere, I'm like, all right, I want a beach. I want some warm weather. I want some, you know, that kind of lifestyle. So I chose Florida. But I knew I had to stop in a little town called Collierville in Tennessee first. And so funny enough, a year before even getting here, I went on Google Maps, and I'm like looking at Collierville. I'm like, okay, it's like kind of close to Memphis. You know, I knew about Memphis growing up. You know, we all know something about Memphis.
So you're not good.
I mean, my frame of reference was Hustle and Flow. Like, you all remember that movie? I still remember. There's that song in the movie. It's totally irrelevant here, but there's a line. It's like, born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. So I just always in my head, you know. No, so anyway, so I'm on Google Maps, and I'm kind of just scrolling through, and I'm like, all right, cool. It's not a big town. It's nice. It's cozy. It's whatever. And I was like, let me find like a martial arts gym, because I've been training Muay Thai for almost, at this point, and not entirely consistently, but since 2016. So about 8 years. So that's my martial arts background, minus of course the Taekwondo we all did as kids. You know, no shade to Taekwondo, just saying.
He's throwing shade.
I mean, listen, we forget a lot after. So, anyways, I'm looking like, let me find martial arts gym. And so I just searched, like, you know, martial arts, jiu-jitsu. And I'd been around enough gyms to be able to grade the place. You know, I can tell if it's a place that's kind of targeted towards very sort of just, hey, come have a little workout, or a place that actually has a serious martial arts culture and program as well. Like, that's an important part of it, because sometimes you can have great instructors, people, you know, this is common in that Taekwondo era in the 80s and 90s. They might be accomplished, you know, in some way, but the academy itself is really just kind of a very light place. So I wanted to find a place that would meet my requirements, and I'd been wanting to start jiu-jitsu already for a long time. I mean, I've been a big fan of MMA really since the first time I ever saw it. I remember it was Chuck Liddell. Seeing Chuck Liddell, man, yeah. he was just like, I was like, that's what an MMA fighter looks like. But you know, developing an appreciation for MMA goes hand in hand to appreciate jiu-jitsu. Otherwise, you're just a guy who likes to see people fight, and then there's kickboxing for that. So, anyway, I knew that was something I would definitely want to do. I wanted to do it already when I was in Dubai, but the logistics didn't make sense for me at the time. It was places. There were a lot of places, but they were far and whatever. Anyway, sorry. Back to the Google Map thing. I'm looking, and I find a place called Border Martial Arts Academy. I look at the pictures. I'm like, oh, okay. I can see how big the mat is, so I know this is for real. They have a ring, they have a cage, and they got the bag area. So I looked them up on Instagram, found Border Martial Arts Academy, and then I noticed there's a guy every Monday who does a show talking to his followers, and it was, you know, Coach Mo's Monday morning show. And so I was like, okay, interesting, because my brother's name is Mo, and typically there are people who might be nicknamed Mo, like Maurice or something, but typically Mo it's become very it's become a common nickname for people from the Middle East. If if your name is Muhammad or Mahmoud, whatever it might be. And so I was like, okay, interesting. Like this guy, he seems like someone I might have some kind of cultural connection to. And so I just followed you guys, and I just for a year straight, I'm seeing your Monday morning show. I'm seeing some of the other posts, and seeing, okay, these guys, this is a legit gym. That's the first thing, because at that time, that's all that was my concern. I just wanted a place I could go train in, because for me, this phase in Collierville wasn't like my end destination. I wasn't here to just live here forever. I was just stopping over. So fast forward in, I think it was June or July 2024, and I was here. I'd finally gotten here. I'm like, let me go to this place. Let me go just check it out. Let me go. I got to go at some point. I want to go, whatever. And so I walk in. I forgot what day it was, but you weren't busy. You were there. You were on the mats. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that's the guy. That's him from the Monday morning show. And so I came and I just saw you there. I just came and said what's up, introduced myself, and that's how we met. And that's when I told you, I'm like, yeah, man, I've been following you for like a year straight, and I think you might have been like, what? Like, we got international followers, like, and so that was really it. That's how it all came together. And I for me, I was just looking for a place that I could at least come and train in, and actually learn jiu-jitsu. And I gotta say, on that note, what a great place to have come to, not only to train, but also to have met you and everybody else at the gym. You included, Gio. Everybody, you guys have been incredible, and it's been very special.
Appreciate it. Crazy story, right? So I remember that day like the back of my hand. I was sitting on the mat after training, and then you come in and you're like, Mo, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And you told me that story, and I'm like, man, thank God I'm doing the Monday morning shows, because sometimes the truth is you lose hope, right? Like, man, what am I doing? Right? To be honest with you, like, what am I doing, right? So it was good to see you come in after following and seeing all this stuff. But I think, of course, that story is cool, that how we met each other. But I think the cool story is you switching the milk from one bottle to the next, right? Because I think if you didn't have like that, I don't know if I'm using this correct, like epiphany, right? If you didn't have that moment, then you would have never ended up here in America. Yeah. Right? And I truly believe, right, I call it like the point of realization that happened to me at 18 when I was out in the street in Arkansas selling shoes, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Yeah. And so I think everybody needs that point, right? Because I think this is if you take it for what it is, if you truly dissect it and take it for what it is, it will change your life. Yeah. Now, if you don't have your head on your shoulders, if you're not aware, then you're gonna just pass this moment, and then you're gonna get to 70, 60, your deathbed, and be like, what the hell did I do with my life? Yeah. Right? Yeah. You look back and where did this time go? What did I do with my life? Yeah. Where were the dreams that I wanted? You never achieved any of it. Yeah. Because most people are not aware. So I think that's where it started, is you being in a bathroom, realizing, what the hell? You got me pouring milk in a bottle? Like, that's my job? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? As long as you're working, it doesn't matter if you pick up, trash, or you have, you're working in the top 500 companies of the world. It doesn't matter. You're working. But everybody has a dream. Everybody has a different ambition. Everybody has a different drive. Everybody has a different mindset and direction of where they want to take their life. Yeah, and I think also, there's a aspect of alignment, and that going back to there are so many different jobs and things that anyone can do in the world, and sometimes that thing might not be something grand, incredible, because theoretically, not every single person on earth could go start a business, because then you'd have no one to employ, right? Theoretically. But it's about alignment, and I feel like it comes down. That's why you have to know yourself very well. You have to allow yourself to be able to reflect and be honest with yourself about where you are and what you're feeling and
how that aligns with what you feel is your purpose. And for some people, that may not even be a factor. Some people are actually, and we know many who are more than happy to just kind of have the career, retire, raise a family, and that's amazing. And there's nothing, it's not like that's in itself something, oh no, you got to go harder. No, don't go harder if that's not even what you care to go to do. For me, that milk story, it really, it's like in my heart was in one place and my body was in another. My heart, bleeds for, cinema, filmmaking. I want to make movies. I want to be a film director. I want to have, I want to apply my creative vision. But what I'm doing right now is not even the like, it's not conducive to that. And so that was around 2015. And by the way, I blew all that money from that. I was supposed to work 4 days. That third day, when I had that moment, I didn't come back the fourth day. Because I was getting paid per day. I didn't make much. I just spent it on my girlfriend, now wife, for a nice weekend together. And I was like, let's enjoy this, and then tomorrow we start building towards the vision. And so that was a very pivotal moment in my life, and having that epiphany, that kind of moment of like, this is what I got to do now. This is the path I need to take to reach where I want to end up. It's very important to fine tune that antenna that we have, like, that sensitivity. Because if that antenna, if your sensitivity to these, it might sound a little I don't know, it might sound a little floaty and whatever, but it's I feel like there's like a real divine intervention, or kind of something speaking to us, and it's, if you're a person of faith, you can interpret that one way. If you're not, you can still interpret it differently. But the point is, sometimes we have these divine callings or something speaking to us, and it's not just clear. It's not like literally a voice in our head, although it can be. But sometimes you get these moments, and it's really like, are you willing to listen? Are you able to listen? That's another thing, and that's what I mean by sensitivity, is how tuned is that antenna to these voices, to these sort of higher callings, these broader signals that you receive, and then actioning it after is another part of the equation. But it starts with that. You got to be sensitive to that discrepancy between what you feel like you should be doing and what you actually are doing. Yeah,
and that's very powerful where you took that to, because like we talked about, you get these callings. I think a lot of greats, right? I think everybody in the world has a calling. Okay, we're put here for a reason. Now, can you find that calling? All right. Now, what separates the good from the average, and the average from the great from the average, is the ones that go after the calling. No. The ones that recognize it and say, hey, at all costs, I'm going to go after my calling. This is what I truly believe. Okay, and I'm going to go for it. Now, 99.9% of the people will not go for it. Okay? That's why we have midlife crisis. That's why we have depression. That's why we have all these whiners. That's why we have all these crying babies, right? It's because of that, and that's just the truth, right? People don't like when I say that, but it's the truth. Yeah. That's why we have what we have, because going after it is the hardest part, is the hardest thing that you will probably ever do in your life. You going after what you did, and you're only at the beginning of the road, right, will be the hardest thing you do. I don't care what happens in your life. Yeah. It will be the hardest thing you do, right? Because you could always go on reserve and just go work the job and get paid a salary or get paid hourly and be done. Yeah. Go through the motions, unhappy, right? But it's still easier to be unhappy at a job that you don't like than going for the calling that you believe is in your heart.
Absolutely.
And this is where most people die. They die 1,000 deaths before the real death comes in their lifetime, right? We always talk about it, Gio and I, on the podcast, is your goal should be to reach your purpose in life. You have one. Yeah. Every single human being has one, okay? Is to use that purpose, use that thing inside of you while you are here on earth. Yeah. Okay? Now, everybody's going to lay on a deathbed at the end of the day. Right. Okay? Yeah. Now, how big is that list of regrets? Yeah. Or how small is it? This is all, at the end of the day, if you ask me, it's extreme mindset. It's all your choice.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn what cards you're dealt. This is your choice.
Yeah.
I don't believe in I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, I honestly, God, don't believe in it.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you want to achieve greatness, can't is not part of the journey. Can't is not part of the dictionary. It's not part of the vocabulary. Because if it is, you will not do it. You know, whether you think you can or you can't, you're correct.
And for you, was that kind of realization, was that around the time you were 18?
I was 18.
That was when you had that realization where you realized, like, I have to go this way.
I have to go a different way. It was at 18. I was sitting outside by myself. I was selling shoes and rugs on the street. That was my job. I was a street vendor, right? Just trying to make a little bit of money and build something, okay? And I woke up that morning, did not want to go to work. You know, I was just dead.
Yeah.
I was dead inside. I was dead physically. I was dead mentally. I woke up 5 or 6 in the morning, and I laid there trying to convince myself not to go. And then I had that talk like, man, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you're quitting right now? Like, you're making an excuse not to go to work? And so I got up and I went, got myself together, dragging myself out of bed. And I still remember this like the back of my hand. And on the way there, it's like the highway's kind of going up to elevation, and there's like kind of like a 2 big mountains / hills with trees. And I remember seeing that from a distance and the sun coming up. That's ingrained in my head.
Yeah.
And 5-10 minutes after that, I take the exit and I go to where I'm going. But that picture right there just never left my head for whatever reason. Yeah. That's ingrained in my head.
Yeah.
So every time I pass that highway, which I do pretty often, 2-3 times a year, I remember the same feeling at 18 years old in the car, exactly how I felt, exactly how I looked, and exactly how that mountain sunset looked.
It's a reminder.
It's ingrained in me.
Yeah.
You know? And so I set up that day. I had no money to come back. The gas got me there. I had no food. Man. I had no money in my pocket. Man. I just had my merchandise. You know? And I was sitting out there. It was a gloomy day. It was probably 60 degrees. Gloomy day, no sun, cloudy, and nobody's buying. No. Like, at all. Nobody's buying. Nothing. Jeez. People will come, and it was weird. People come, they pick something up. I want this. When they come to buy, they don't buy. And it was just repetitive the whole day.
Yeah.
And it came to like the afternoon, and I was by myself. And when you're working by yourself as a street vendor, you got to be really careful. Especially when you're in a neighborhood, right? Because somebody's always watching you.
Yeah.
So like 2-3 o'clock, I started getting lightheaded. I didn't have no food.
Jeez.
And across the street is a gas station. I was like, okay, I have 2 choices. Okay, first of all, I started scrounging the car because whoever's car it was, I knew him. He always has quarters, nickels, dimes everywhere, right? I knew that he had that thrown around the car. So I'm under the seat, I'm in the cup holder, I'm in the glove box, I'm in the compartments. And I scrounged up like $2, just in change.
Jeez.
Okay? And I was like, I have 2 choices. Either I'm going to man up, I'm going to just tough it out. Hopefully I don't pass out before I close up. Or I'm going to run across the street. If I run across the street, they may steal my stuff. If I man up and I get in a fight, right? That was something I always was, bound to happen sometimes. If I get in a fight, I won't win this fight. Even though I was trained, right? I'm like fatigued.
Yeah.
Like no breakfast, nothing.
Oh.
No water, nothing.
Oh, man.
Like, okay, if 5:30 rolls around and these folks roll up on me, what am I going to do? I was like, screw it, run across the street. So I waited, make sure there was no cars, right? It's a small town. And I took off across the street. I picked up a Hostess cake, the 2 Hostess cake that come in a package, and a pack of a Nutty Bar. That was the 2 cheapest things.
Yeah.
I knew the Nutty Bar, I can split it in half. It had 2 of them, And so I knew I had enough. I threw the coins on the counter, and I stepped outside, and I counted, and I was watching my setup. And he counted, good to go, took my stuff, boom, ran to the car.
Man.
I had 1 Hostess cake, 1 Nutty Bar. Saved the other one for later on.
Wow.
And that afternoon, I was sitting. It was a Ford Explorer, a red Ford Explorer. I was watching my setup. I had the door open. I was sitting there. I had shorts, cargo shorts on. I still remember it, like today, yesterday. Yeah. And And I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Like what? I literally questioned. I was like, what? I was like, God, what did I do to deserve this? And when I questioned it like that, I was like, damn, like it hit me.
Yeah.
And you're starting to question, and you're at a low point. Like, what the hell did I do?
Yeah.
To deserve? Like, what did I do to deserve this? You know? And so I was like, this is it. This will never. I never want to feel like that ever in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ever. You know? And I was like, you know what? This is the day you change your life. And so at that point, people coming in, I gotta go home. I don't got no gas.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, a lady comes in. She's like, I want a rug. I want 2 shoes. And boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's go. And I'm picking it up. I'm ready. Get to the car. She opens the wallet to give me the cash. When I get to the car, she's like, nah, I don't want it.
Oh, man. The plot twist. Oh,
no. Listen, I thought I'm about to make $80.
Yeah.
I sold the rug for 40. Shoes I used to sell for $20. 2 pairs and a rug, $80. I'm rich. No, I'm good. Ma'am, give me 60. Give me 50. Nope.
That's crazy.
You know, I went down.
Yeah.
I just need to get home.
Yeah.
Nope. 30, 40 minutes later, an hour later, a bum walks past me. Okay? I walk up because I thought he's going to snatch a shoe. I like these shoes, man. Go ahead. It's $20. I don't got $20. And what you got? I don't know. I got some change. I said, give me whatever you got in your pocket.
Oh, man.
That's all I told him. I said, give me whatever you got in your pocket and you get to have these shoes. Put both hands in his pocket, pulled out a bunch of dollar bills, ended up like $7, $8. Take the shoes. $7, $8, loaded my stuff up, went across the street, put the $8 of gas, went straight home.
Wow.
You know? But that was the moment. It was like, this would never happen again. You know? And most people, if they're not aware of it, they're going to get to the deathbed and they're going to be, like I said, these people die 1,000 deaths before the time happens.
Yeah.
Or it's the second one, the one that realizes it, okay, and still doesn't do nothing about it because of how hard it is.
Yeah.
Still doesn't do. They lie to themselves. They say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to change my life, and I'm going to change my family's life. And they realized it. They realize where they are.
Yeah.
And they talk about how they're going to change your life, and how they're going to become better, how they're going to become sharper, how they're going to sharpen their swords, how they're going to change the future. But they don't do it.
Yeah.
They do it for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. And they go back to square one because they forget. And they do it again. And they do it again 10, 15, 20, 30 years in this never-ending cycle until they die. And then you got that last one, the BMF. The one that says, at all costs, even if it kills me, I am going to change my life.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it takes, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And this is the one that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Not to worry about him in the fact that he's ain't gonna win. This is the one that you don't want to mess with. This is the one that if he says something, he's gonna do it.
Yeah.
This is the one that he is going to change not just his family's life and his life, but the next generation's life. The one that rewrites history for his bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is what happened with all these greats. Every great came from a sob story.
Mm-hmm.
Every successful person, almost every successful person came from a sob story. Some form or another.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sad story that they had.
Yeah.
That they realized that I will not live like this ever again.
Yeah.
Alex Hormozi had that.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk had that.
Yeah.
Bill Gates, everybody had that. Nobody wants to believe it from the success that they have now. But Alex Hormozi, multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
Worth a few $100 million. Slept in his gym.
Yeah.
Slept in his gym.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is the most important thing, and this is what Sharpen Your Sword is about. And to see you going down this path now, okay, and now you're in it, right? You see what it takes.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And the thing about it is the reward doesn't come until 5, 8, 10, 12, 15 years later.
Yeah.
That's why many people drowned.
Yeah.
Okay? But you need that moment and be aware of it and realize this is my calling, go for it.
Yeah. Well, that got me thinking as well about like how, got me thinking a lot about how also it's like there needs to be some vigilance as well, because I feel like, there are times because this happened to me twice in my life, these like kind of turning points. And, and I think, it's very good to have multiple turning points in your life if that's what needs to happen. Because the first one was the milk story. which was me working on productions, but as a production assistant. So like the bottom of the ladder. After that point, when I got my camera, I started shooting stuff. I started doing, music videos. I started doing corporate stuff, like a little, testimonial video for this company or something. And I started doing freelance work, and I wasn't bringing in big bucks in the sense that it could really sustain me, but I was at least keeping some kind of consistent work schedule. It was the beginning of, all right, hey, I'm on this journey. And then when I started working with my private client, it was almost like because it was something good, it allowed, like, after a while, complacency started breeding again. Once that started going, I was, now I was earning substantially more money, so I can actually like sustain myself. Like now I can actually, I want to travel somewhere, I want to, get something, I'll just, pay my rent, whatever was possible. And that continued for a while. I did a lot of great work there, and actually I grew a lot as a result. I learned a lot more about production from the client side and the production side as well. Got to see how business is done. Got to see really a lot of high level things that I would have never been exposed to otherwise. I mean, I've been to the UN in New York on multiple occasions, travel around the world, filming, doing documentaries. So it was a great experience in that sense, but it reached a point where it stagnated, where that growth, it's kind of just like a ceiling. You can, like right now, if take the ladder, you can keep climbing up, but eventually you're just gonna hit this ceiling. And for me, that ceiling feeling started happening around 20, let's say 21, whatever. It was actually, the pandemic really changed it a lot too, because in literally a snap of a finger, you can't go shoot anything in real life anymore. Traveling was restricted, so all the whatever. So it became kind of like a desk job. I'm sitting there, I have my team of editors, and instead of us going out and shooting and like really creating some cool films, as much as it was corporate or whatever, but we always put our heart and soul into it. Now it became really a desk job. So you're sitting at the desk every day in this cage and the four walls, and not really able to create anything impactful. But hey, the salary was there, and you're still earning your money. I can still order those things I like off Amazon. I can still get my wife something nice. I can still whatever. Forget all the cost of living stuff, which did go up. That's not relevant right now. And I reached that point again where I looked at myself in the mirror. No milk bottles this time, but like the idea that, okay, I'm here, it's good, I have a great relationship with my client and just the people I'm working with. Everything's good on paper, but that void was there, that same kind of void that I felt that first time with the milk bottles. And it was exactly this thought I would think about. All right, so I feel this misalignment right now, and I'm very aware of it, and I'm showing up every day, and I'm very aware of it. It's evident. It's in front of me every single day, every waking moment of my life. It's in front of me, and trying to figure out what am I going to do about it. And for 2 years, I was flirting with the idea of starting a company and this and that, and then thinking of all these different factors. And I realized, I'm like, the only way for this to work is I have to completely transform my life. And that required me moving back to the US, taking an entrepreneurial path. Because what I realized, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I realized like everything I have learned, everything I've been doing, all the productions I did, all the client work that I did, all the money I managed as well for all that stuff. I mean, you gotta hire, subcontract depending on the project. I learned a lot of skills, and I'm like, if I take this to market, I have a very valuable product I can offer to the market. Like I can bring this to market. What I do, I can take to market and forge my own path with my work, and not necessarily have to be subject to the whims of someone else or just employment. Because when you employ somebody, there are expectations, and that's totally fair. And in my case, I was employed, so it's like, am I going to sit here every day and just be frustrated and expect my boss is going to come and tell me, hey, you know what, we like you so much, we want to give you even more? No, it's like they're always generous. It's not about them, but it's about, inevitably, nobody's going to come put their hand out and take you out of whatever you're feeling. It's up to you. You have to reach that moment of realization and then act on it, like you said. Like, you have to take whatever, again, these realizations, and it's the wrong path, and this isn't it. And for me, that wrong path was sitting in a desk 24/7. I'm sitting there. I like to refer to myself as a filmmaker, and sure, I've made some films, but I'm sitting between four walls every day. I'm supposed to roam free. You can't be a filmmaker and make films when you're sitting in a wall all day and you're dealing with, the marketing team who, didn't send you something last week and now you're behind on your like all these kinds of things that when you're inside of a company that frustrate, that hold you back. I realize I'm like, I can take matters into my own hands. And so from all that experience, that business experience, I realized I'm like, you know what? I can forge my own path. I can do this. And I'm gonna be straight up. Like, a lot of people told me that. A lot of people along the way were like, "Oh man, your stuff is so good, dude. You should be doing this on your own. Like, you should start your own thing." And I always I appreciated it, but there was that part of me where I was like, "But what do they know? Like, all right, you're a suit, you work in government, whatever. Like, I appreciate that you love the video, the film that we did, but like, you're not necessarily." And I wouldn't say this to them. Just in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, but they don't know film. They don't know really like this stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like exactly, It's like I was actually telling Mo, it's kind of like if I'm a white belt and I go home show my parents some moves, they're like, oh wow, they're like, you're a little jiu-jitsu guy. They'll be so happy. They think I'm great, but I actually come to the gym. I'm actually not really on that level at all. And with this, it kind of felt the same. I felt like, okay, to these guys, because they don't know much, they're going to tell me, oh yeah, you should start your own thing, you should do your, but in the back of my head, because I also had that unsettled feeling about myself and my own career, I was like, but maybe they don't know, like they don't get it. They don't know that this isn't the best work, but regardless, I always believed in myself. And when I pulled the trigger and came here, and then, we started doing our stuff together, and it started, the first major thing was me traveling to Vegas with you guys, which was actually super cool. And that felt to me like a moment in time where I had multiple doors open in front of me. And I felt like that trip to Vegas, coming with you guys, traveling, immersing myself with you guys, and that was great because I also got to know a lot of great guys, John, Nate, of course I got to know you even more. Some of the other people on the team, Ben, Kayla, everyone who was there, I got to know them. That was, for me, this is what it's all about. This is what, I'm doing in this case, a jiu-jitsu documentary. This is what it's all about. It's about being, training with them. It's about being with them. It's about traveling with them. They're going to competition, seeing firsthand and being immersed in it. And so it felt like I had a bunch of doors in front of me. And I felt like that was a fork in the road for me, where I walked through a door that I'm never gonna come back out of, right? And I mean that in the most positive way, which is this moment in time, I took a decision which set me on a path which is gonna continue to lead me towards where I'm going. And so since then, doing I did a few like just short videos, just to kind of like wrap up what we did there. And then later working on the Sharpen Your Sword film, and we could talk about that in more detail if you'd like. But doing the brand film and the photo shoot and stuff, and then you guys seeing it, and you seeing also now what a production could look like. What it actually looks like to script and to shoot and then to edit and then voice, like actually do the whole thing, the works. And then getting your reception, getting the reception from everyone else was another moment of like, oh yeah, like now I've actually sort of field tested my product, so to speak, right? So like, years back, people were saying, you should go do whatever. I felt like the people giving me that feedback didn't have all the necessary understanding of what I'm doing to know if, to know what they're talking about. And I mean that super respectfully. But that now I actually field tested it with people, in the U.S., right? You guys are in the U.S. and you see a lot of other things, and for it to still feel like it was on some level, and I'm constantly improving, but for it to feel like, oh, it's not just a couple of people in a couple government offices in the Middle East and in Dubai or whatever. It's but it's actually internationally speaking, this holds up. And so that was all the momentum I needed to really push this into overdrive, and get things moving with my entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. So I think it's very important. Something you said is that you were in a very comfortable job, right? You could have stayed there and retired there,
Yeah.
But something in you was missing.
Yeah.
You weren't fulfilled, right? So what do you think, from your experience, happens to human beings when they don't really live their purpose or pursue their purpose in life, right? And just stay comfortable?
I think it's spiritual death, and I would assume, and this is again assuming you are very aware of that void, because for some people, they may not be aware of it. They may not realize that this is not good for them. Or some people, they're fine, they're settled. But to the ones who feel it, the only destination there is spiritual death. And how do you fill that void? You may end up filling it with negative addictions. And you go down that path long enough. It's crazy, because I don't even remember when it was. I had a moment in time where I looked at everything around me in the world, in life, and I'm like, none of this is real. And it sounds weird, but what I mean by that is I'm like, every single thing that exists around us was an idea at some point, right? Like this where we are today. At some point, it was an idea. It didn't exist. It didn't physically it wasn't here. Even Sharpen Your Sword, at one point, it did not exist. Right. But it was willed into existence by action. Mm-hmm. And so the inverse of that is there is no action. You will just remain where you are. You will remain in this small place where there could have been potential. And I feel like, at least with me, it definitely would have been the case where another 10 years, you would just feel so empty, so burdened, so there's nothing to live for. You're just kind of living, like in response to everything in a way, and that I feel like will just kill you spiritually. Absolutely.
100%. I think that's why there's so much depression in this world, especially in this society, because many people do not live their purpose. Yeah. People hate their jobs. I think the statistic is like over 70% of people do not like their jobs. Yeah. Which is probably 99% of people don't like their jobs. And I believe that if you don't live your purpose, it leads you to depression. Yeah. Or emptiness, like you said, like spiritual death. Yeah. And that leads you to vices, to fill that void. Yeah. Like I was talking to my girlfriend's brother. He's 17. He's about to be 17. And I said, what do you want to do, bro? Are you going to go to college? Are you going to get some trades? He was like, I don't know, something that pays me good. I'm like, well, yeah, you want to make money, right? But you want to make sure that you like what you do, Yeah. Like, it don't matter how much money you're making. If you're going to be miserable every day, right? Like, it's not going to be worth it. I'm like, let me tell you something. I'm like, look at me, bro. I enjoy every day of my life, right? Like, that's not to brag about you, because at one point, it was days that I didn't enjoy having to go to work. So, like, would you rather have a lot of money, right, and only enjoy 2 days out of your week, which is Saturday, Sunday, or maybe not have as much money, but you enjoy every day of the week? Yeah. You're like, well, I'd rather enjoy every day of the week. Yeah. Well, there you go, bro. Enjoy something choose with something that you will enjoy, not pursue the money.
Yeah, well, actually, I love that you brought that up, because actually one of the things I would say when I reflect on looking back, I never cared about money. Like, of course, hold on. We all care about money 100%. We all got bills to pay. We got things to do, but money was never a driving factor. kind of just came as a result of pursuing the thing that was the most meaningful to me. In this case, it's what I also love. Like I love filmmaking, therefore I want to make films. And in the process, when I started doing films, this is before the private client, the full-time job, I was happy. Like I was doing music videos, and like that, music videos are super fun. Like I thought about it. I was like, maybe while I'm in Memphis, I can do some music videos. But I was like, let me not. Maybe maybe not. I don't know. But music videos are fun. Documentaries are fun if the subject is interesting. Because a documentary can be anything. A documentary, you can make boring, annoying, not fun documentaries. You can have the opposite, very fun, exciting documentaries that stimulate you. But I never concerned myself with money. It was like an inevitable part of the process. You pursue what you're doing wholeheartedly, clear-minded, single-minded. You just focus on what you care about, what you want to be doing, and the money comes because you get so good at something. It's almost inevitable. Like it's if you're the best at what you do, how do you become the best at something? You gotta love it enough to do it. Like, when you become a jiu-jitsu black belt, when you became a jiu-jitsu black belt, you became a black belt as a result of your passion for the martial art. And I know there are definitely people out there who start, thinking, oh, I want to become a black belt, or maybe have other, purple belt or something. And there are people who obsess a little bit about the belts. But those people aside, taking somebody who just loves martial arts, who just loves doing jiu-jitsu, you come in every day. Well, guess what? You're going to get very good at it. And you're going to reach a point where, let's say you become a black belt. Well, guess what? Now, because you're a black belt, you can seriously, maybe open a gym if that's what you want to do, or teach people, or do some other thing relating to that, which then could bring you money. Like, my point here is that it's really, you focus on what matters the most to you, what you love to do, what you care about, what actually gives you fulfillment, and the money comes. This is what I think.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree. That's very powerful, right? Both things that you and Gio talked about. Money is not part of it. Like money should not. It is part of it. Money should not be the only driving factor.
Yeah.
Right. It is part of it. But what Gio said, man, is like, would you rather live your life? Because I know a lot of guys like this. They have a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay, more than what they know what they can do with it, but they're not happy. Right? Why do the millionaires and billionaires are the ones that commit suicide?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you have to love what you do, but at the same time, we live in America. Even if you live in a third world country, you got bills to pay.
Yeah.
You got you need food for your family, right? And what you said right now is, I told Gio this when he first started working. I don't know if you remember what I told you about the money coming part. Mm-hmm. If you become a wizard in your craft, the money's gonna be there. Mm-hmm. If you become a black belt in your craft, the money will come. Right? Now, some people act like they're black belts, but they're not, and they're wondering why their money's coming. Yeah. We're not coming, yeah. Right? So if you get good at what you do, the money will come. Yeah. So I want to take it back to you, okay? Yeah. Again, because this is why I wanted you on the podcast. You came into the academy and you said, I do film. And I'm thinking, okay, this dude just does highlights, whatever. What is film, right? I didn't know any better. And he's like, no, trust me, bro. And I was like, okay, here we go, another guy, right? So I brushed him off. I honestly brushed him off. And he followed up. And he followed up again. All right, whatever, let's see. Let's talk, right? But so props to you for staying persistent and saying, hey, bro, you don't know. Yeah. Trust me, you don't know, right? So part of you knew what you have. Yeah. Okay, and I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit. Part of you knew what you have, and the other part of you didn't believe it. Yeah. Okay? This, two things have to go together. Yeah. For the money to come, for you to be a black belt. Yeah. Right? You can't just tell me, hey, you don't know, bro. Trust me, I got something. But you don't believe in yourself. No. Because even if I believe in you, but you don't believe in you, you're not going to get that far. No. Right? And a lot of people go down this path because you kept saying, well, I'm in America. I just don't know if my quality is good enough or whatever it is. I don't know if I have the standard. And now you've believed it.
Yeah.
Because your action is showing it.
100%.
You've put in the films together. You made the Sharpen Your Sword film, guys. Go look it up on Instagram. All right? You're going to see the film that he created, EZAMedia. All right? And so it's almost like a self-sabotaging process.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're drowning your own self. And so many people do this. And I know that because I did it.
Yeah.
And I still do it to a certain extent. When it came time to open the academy, I almost had a heart attack. I was a purple belt.
No.
Like, who are you to open a jiu-jitsu academy?
Was that a thing, by the way? Like, did you feel like that was a real perception?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a black belt. You have to be a jiu-jitsu black belt to open an academy, right? That's what most people think.
Right.
Right? So, like, damn, you're a purple belt. You're teaching classes as a purple belt, right? Like, you're not a black belt teaching. Who's gonna follow your lead? Who's gonna listen to you? What do you know? You're always gonna be compared to a black belt. If you're not a black belt, you'll always be compared to a black belt.
Yeah.
Okay, and even when you are a black belt, you're still being compared to other black belts. All right, and so it was this battle of, am I qualified?
Right.
This is the battle that many people face, and the problem is, and I had these people around me. Most people tell you you're not qualified.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why, if you are not there to support yourself, you need the support system there to push you.
Yeah.
Because everybody else around you is not going to tell you to go open up EZAMedia. How many people told you to do EZAMedia?
I mean, aside from direct relatives, I mean, maybe one or two. I mean, not even in name. They just kind of always threw out like, oh, yeah, you should start your own thing.
You know?
Yeah.
The number is small.
Yeah.
Okay? The number is extremely small. So because most people don't have these people around them saying, go do this. Go for it, bro. Trust me. Just do it.
Yeah.
I believe in you. And the quality is great. Most people would never do it.
Yeah.
Because usually what happens is when they tell somebody around them, they're like, you crazy? You're going to open a jiu-jitsu academy at purple belt? Like, you don't know nothing about a jiu-jitsu academy?
Right.
You're going to make a living off teaching jiu-jitsu? Really? You're going to make a living off making videos?
Yeah.
Rap videos? You know what I'm saying? You know, film? You're going to make money off of that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what people are going to say. But now these are slick comments.
Yeah.
What does the mind take that as? Like, damn, they're all right.
Yeah.
I'm going to make money teaching jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Who am I to teach jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
You know? And most people don't do what they have to do.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why the one that goes for it, these people are on just a different wavelength. They're in a different like part of the universe.
Well, you have to be. You have to, at least you have to thrust yourself into that place, and it requires a lot of work. And that was another thing with me I realized about myself in this past year. So the moment when I showed up, that's where there's always that kind of like balance. You're walking a line between two different things, and for me it was, I do believe in myself, and I know that I can do this, and I know that I want to do this. And then on the other end, it's also like, but am I really on that level? That kind of questioning yourself. And I feel like it. So this is again why it requires a lot of work internally. Is like, this could become destructive or constructive. It could be, you are constantly, believing in yourself, and you can turn it into some constructive. But a lot of people, I mean, I'm sure I know a lot of people who just really just are constantly doubtful of themselves, of the situation, of the this, and it's like we all have doubts. Even me, I'm a very, I think about things very comprehensively. Sometimes I try to pull back to where I'm like, I think I'd rather go into this thing not even thinking of it. Like this podcast, this is officially my first podcast that I've ever done. So, just for the audience, just so y'all know. But going into it, I'm like, man, I'm not gonna think about what am I gonna talk about? What am I gonna do? Let me watch a bunch of podcasts. What are they? It's like, let me just go into it. Let me just dive in. And so for me, it required work to balance that part of, you want to think things through, but then you also just kind of want to like, sometimes you have that little spark where it's like, man, you feel good about it, just do it. You know what I mean? You don't even got to think too much about this, because the specifics are going to weigh you down. And so when I came to you, I knew that I wanted to do this, but I was like, in my mind, and I'm gonna be honest, on many levels, it was true. Like the work I had at that point, because it's a lot, like a lot of what I did work with stock footage. So I can't put that out there into the world and be like, oh, look what I did. Because I didn't like shoot that. I didn't direct it. I wasn't there directing this actor to, you know, some projects use a lot of stock footage, some projects use less. But in general, like I was like, nah, I need to thrust myself and be in it, you know, and I wanted to bring my portfolio up to a level where I could really show what I could do. And that's where, you know, I'm very grateful for what we ended up doing together, because in many ways, and I've told you this repeatedly, it's like, this is also practice for me. Yeah. Like this period of me coming back was like a crash course in, okay, we left the desk job, we left the office kind of the corporate environment. Now we're in the real world. Now we're in the wild. Now you got to set your own schedules. Now you got to be the one guaranteeing. I mean, I kind of was already doing that stuff because I was a creative director, but still, it was like everything's in my hands now. So all of that from that moment of July till when we shot the Sharpen Your Sword brand film, and then by the time we finished editing it, which was early this year, all of that in itself was almost like a crash course in like priming myself for what would prepare me for the launch of the company now, and I'm very proud of it. I launched EZAmedia this month in March, and
let's go.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you, and I'm very proud of it because there's so much went into it, both personally, internally, a lot of things I had to work through, but also just in terms of workload and things I had to actually do. And once you start that entrepreneurial journey, I mean, you're in it. It's real, and every decision you take has a very real outcome, or not. Every inaction you take has a very real non-outcome. Yeah, exactly. So you know. And nobody's looking over your shoulder and checking that you're doing it. Nobody's gonna be like, oh, hey, did you do that social media post? Did you set up the CRM? Did you et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? No, it's in your hands. And as productive as I've been, because I'm proud of the work I've done over my career so far, but as productive as I've been and all that, man, I've never been this productive. I've never been this energized, and at the same time, I've never had this much work in my life. And I find that very interesting because we all know it's not easy, and we all hear many entrepreneurs talk about how it's not easy, and it's definitely not. But it's almost like you're given an energy to match it. I could equate it like having a kid. Like I had my son. He was born 2022. He's 2.5 now. And before my wife got pregnant, like the whole idea of having a kid was like, oh, I'd love to have a kid, but man, it's going to be a lot. We got to really make sure we, plan or whatever. And it just kind of happened. We didn't plan. It just happened. And it wasn't an accident. We weren't at that moment going for it. But it happened. It was such a blessing. And that period from conception to birth, that 9-month, pregnancy, it kind of like readies you. And of course, for women, I don't know, this, I don't want to speak out of pocket here, but it's almost like that process prepares you for what will be needed when you become a parent. And in many ways, this as well, like, I started the journey. I took that step to do this and to set up my company and become an entrepreneur and really take destiny into my hands. And everything prior, it's always that theoretical, like, I'm not ready yet. No, should I do it? Should I not? Should I whatever? But once you take it, like somehow that whatever you feel like you might be missing, that energy, that drive, it comes, man. It comes and it gives you energy and it gives you a mission, which I think is amazing. And it's not even just about the company per se. It's just about the drive, the aspiration to determine your own path. And for everybody, it can look different, but the principle is the same.
That's very powerful. But at the end of the day, when you start with everything else, right, you can't rely on the motivation. So when you start working, I believe deep down inside, we're wired to work.
Yeah.
You know, we are.
Yeah.
You know, we are wired to be productive, to keep going. Now, we've lost it. It's been covered up with blankets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when you start doing this, you actually start getting addicted to it.
Yeah.
Like, man, this is, and especially when you start seeing reward, this is what I get if I do that much hard work.
Yeah.
Let me do this. And then you start building momentum.
Yeah.
Right? But most people don't get to that point. Right?
Yeah.
And you just have to keep it going.
Yeah.
At where you are now, you launched it, exciting, congrats. But now it's this everyday journey, this everyday battle, right?
Yeah.
For a long period of time. You know, whether it's successful or not, you have to follow this.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't, then you're gonna go back to square one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm very happy to see Easy go from day one walking to the academy, talking about it, and now Easy, you know, traveling to his next destination to do what he loves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the coolest things to see, honestly, because everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
And not many people do it. So it's very cool. It makes me very happy to see people actually achieve things.
Yeah, you know, thank you for being part of the journey too, man. You know, you were very much a part of it. I went and thanked everybody that I worked with when I got the company started and did the reel. And if anybody's watching, please go to EZAmedia.com and watch the reel. Check us out. And as you know, as I was working on it, I'm looking at just all these projects and this artist that I worked with, this client that I did something with. I messaged every single one of them and I was like, hey, you know, I've been working on this. I just want to thank you for being part of the journey, because every single one of those experiences along the way led to this. And that goes for you as well, man. Like, really, I appreciate this time that we got to spend and become friends, and then also do our projects together. And it's still not the end. I mean, there's still some other things cooking. But yeah, I just want to express my gratitude, man.
Yeah, I'm thankful for you all as well, for working and doing everything you did for Sharpen Your Sword. Like you said, guys, check out EZAmedia. Before we start wrapping up, I do want to touch base on jiu-jitsu with you.
Yeah.
Right? You have a very powerful story, but if it wasn't for the martial arts journey, right, for me, the martial arts journey is what opened up many doors, right? And some of the best people I know is from training jiu-jitsu, training martial arts, right? And I met you through that, right? Otherwise, I probably would have never met you if you didn't see my academy and come into the academy, and we go from there. So what do you think of jiu-jitsu? You're a white belt. You're a new practitioner, right? What do you think of jiu-jitsu so far?
It's incredible. I mean, jiu-jitsu is really I'll try not to be too analytical about it. Like, you know, so I've been doing Muay Thai for a while, and I watch MMA, and I understood jiu-jitsu from a technical level, an observant technical level, not a practical level. I've never really done it, but I could understand, you know, when somebody's in someone's guard, half guard, what's generally a good position to be in, what's a bad position. Although I gotta say, at the competition, like at the tournaments we went to, there's times where I'm looking at somebody and he seems fine, and then he taps, and I'm like, oh, try to look at you, I'm like, yo, what happened? Like, why I don't even know. So it wasn't immediately obvious to me, but for me, jiu-jitsu is fascinating because, so, you know, it started back in the day, it was judo essentially, and what I learned in my historical study of it was, there was a point in time where the words judo and jiu-jitsu were actually interchangeable. You know, it wasn't like now where we have so much data and books and everything immediately accessible. So when I forgot the exact names, but the man who taught Helio and Carlos Gracie, Maeda, I was trying to remember the first name, but yeah, so
Tudo.
Right, exactly, and you know, what he taught them, they adapted. And I know there's always like the conversation between, you know, Helio, Carlos, like who, you know, maybe there's some controversy or discussion between who's really the godfather or whatever. But point being, they adapted it into something that was even more complete than what judo is. And that is so interesting because when I look at what jiu-jitsu, now let's call it Brazilian jiu-jitsu, how that evolved from that point on, it's actually insane to me how vast it can be, from the big movements to these slightest variations of every single movement, and how almost infinite it is. It's almost like there's always some way in any given position, any configuration. Like you could get two people, like two little action figures, and create some weird entanglement between them, right? And with jiu-jitsu, there is a way out and a way in from any one of these positions. It could literally be any position. And that's what's crazy to me. And so it's very fascinating. And when you think about that, it's like, then what makes it so that it is, there's a way out and a way in, and that it's effective and so on. It's not like Helio and Carlos Gracie and everyone since went and just out of nowhere thought, oh yeah, let's create a move called this. No, they created principles, and these principles exist across the board. So leverage, fulcrum points, the way you manipulate angles, and how, if you grab the collar this way and you press your elbow in this way, you completely negate that guy's arm movement, like little things like that, but it's based in principle. And so for me, that was always something I wanted to understand. Like I wanted to do. I wanted to understand, like, how is it when you're on your back you can choke somebody out? Like, that's crazy. I'd seen it and I knew the move. You could do a triangle choke, you could do a few other things, but like I want to know it. I want to understand it. And that's completely aside from the physical aspect of it. Like training jiu-jitsu, my friend Romain, shout out Romain, he always say, he's like, man, it's a different kind of cardio down there. Because, sometimes also, he had done it for a while. But, that was another thing. I'm like, this, like from a physical fitness perspective, that is just like, if you're down there, you're grappling and you're dealing with, let's say a knee on your belly as you're trying to, it's like, it's not easy. That's like a very rigorous physical test that you don't just get with like going to the gym. And even with Muay Thai, it's different too. Like Muay Thai also notoriously extremely strenuous, don't get me wrong. But there, when you're Muay Thai, like there are rounds and there's, you can maybe keep your distance or something. And with jiu-jitsu, like you're still in it. Like you're in a bad spot, you gotta kind of figure it out. Like, but I would say the ultimate thing for me about jiu-jitsu that's been really just the most fascinating thing is that it's literally it engages you mentally as much as it does physically, compared to other martial arts, say like Muay Thai or any striking sport. There's a degree of chess. You gotta like calculate. You got your timing. You come in. The reads. You see. What is he throwing and how. So how do I kind of bait him into something, whatever. There's a degree of that, but once you get hit, half of that goes out the window. Like you get clocked. There's no chess, bro. There's this checkers at that point. So you gotta like, I don't know. Survive if it's not going well, right? But with jiu-jitsu, if it's not going well, if you can freeze time, there are many things that you can think about in terms of what's going on to counter what's happening. We were doing drills yesterday, and the slightest little detail on how you sweep that knee in under the leg changes how you respond to that situation. And that's what's so fascinating, that when I'm training, I'm not just thinking about like, oh yeah, I'm working out, it's like, oh no, I got a puzzle to solve here. And that is like unlike anything else I've experienced. And that's why I didn't fully realize it until I started, but that was going into it. One of the things I really liked about jiu-jitsu was just, it's so interesting, and there's so many components of all these athletes I respect so much. I mean, let's just talk about MMA athletes. I mean, the masters of jiu-jitsu, people like Jacare Souza was just a beast in his prime. There's just so many people. I'm trying to think of others. Usually I try to think of something, I can't think of anything. But it's...
Damian Maia.
Yeah. And I didn't fully appreciate him when he was in his prime.
Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
He's a high-level black belt. Charles Oliveira.
Oh, of course. I mean, Oliveira, dude, if we're going to talk about him... What an epic prototype of a fighter. Yeah. See when he knocked out Chandler? Like, he knocked him out, like, clean technique. Yeah. Like, proper, like, you know, guard up and, like, it was, like, textbook. And he's a monster jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he still did that so clean. Yeah, so seeing these guys all these years, I'm like, well, I definitely respect the sport. There's no, even when it goes to the ground, I'm never like, oh, my God, unless it's, like, Mirab. You know, I don't like his fighting style. You know, he grabs. But anyway, you know what I mean? We start a little podcast beef over here. You're probably watching.
Right?
Yeah, anyway.
If you were to give a white belt, or if you were to give somebody that's never trained jiu-jitsu any advice about training, or somebody that's on the fence about training, what would that be?
You know, that's a good question, man, because I have talked to a lot of people about it. My wife, my friends, my close friends. If I have to think like one piece of advice, just like it, I don't know if I would call it even advice, but what I would tell them is like, it's gonna show you another way to think about what you're doing, and how you do things. Now, as it relates to the sport itself, you know, you're gonna think about, all right, now you know if you're under the ground that there's an escape route and there's a way to get out of it. But in kind of in a more like a higher analogy, you know, that kind of wires you to deal with other things differently as well. You know, when you're in that pressure of you're out of breath, you're weak, you're in pain, and you still have to kind of think through real problem solving. It wires your brain a little differently, and if you commit to it, you can have a lot of transformational effects beyond just the physical. And the physical is already good enough. I mean, how many times do we know people, they start something, they get in shape, and they might have just done fitness kickboxing or something, and they get in great shape. So that's already one good reason to do anything. But jiu-jitsu specifically really shows you a completely different dimension. And so I would say to anybody who does want to start, this is coming from a white belt, you know, you can make it whatever you want it to be. It can be a fun time. It can be a fun, like, I'm coming to meet people and getting to know people and having a group that you can work out with. And it could also be a very highly disciplined pursuit that can totally transform how you see the world, how you see life. But it's really, you got to just stick with it and don't feel pressured to do things you don't got to do.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Easy. Appreciate your time. This has been very fun.
Thank you, sir.
It's been a good journey.
Thank you, guys.
I really appreciate you taking the time and jumping on the podcast. Okay. And I hope you have a good journey wherever you go next, right?
Thank you.
Wherever you take it. I believe in you. You just got to believe in yourself. All right. And EZAMedia is the next thing, guys.
Thank you.
It is. I truly believe it's the next thing. And I think you're going to accomplish a lot through it. So, guys, check out EZAMedia. He's the one that did the brand film. So if everybody's wondering, hey, who did it? This is the guy. This is the man behind the camera, okay? Very high-quality stuff. Very unique story. And I'm very proud and happy that I met you.
Thank you.
And like always, guys, sharpen your sword. This is the secret sauce of life, okay? How do you become better? And bettering yourself is what's going to get you to your next success, to next journey, okay? So sharpen the sword physically and mentally so you become better for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for your country. I appreciate you guys watching the podcast, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.